Jeff, even with their lower income, could Latino families be doing a better job preparing for their future?
Certainly. One of the key obstacles is a lot of Latinos work in areas where they're not offered pensions. A legislative proposal we've been endorsing is the automatic auto IRA, which has been introduced by Senator Bingaman from New Mexico. And in this proposal, everyone would have access to their own IRA, and the default would be to contribute a percentage of their earnings to this auto IRA. At the same time, for low-income workers, this is not going to be sufficient, so it's important that we keep Social Security strong.
So the auto IRA, you would just go into it if you started a new job, and you would have to tell your bosses, I don't want to be in this, to get out of it.
Exactly. The default would be that you would be contributing, but you have the option to opt out of it if you desired.
Because right now you have to say to your boss, I want to be in this. It's the other way around, right?
Well, a lot of employers don't even offer 401ks, so it's even more difficult. On your own, you have to go to a financial company, and then you have to, write them a check each month or figure out a way to get it automatically taken out if you have direct deposit, and in many cases, that's not offered to employees.
You talked earlier, Gus, about underbanking. This is, I guess, a part of that, because if you have no relationship with a financial institution, it's unlikely you're going to get regular advice that you should be saving or saving more.
Absolutely. As I said, a quarter of us are unbanked, and you don't have the tools to prepare for retirement. One of the big problems, as I said, I think the most important thing is that you diversify and plan for retirement. The first step I think that we need to take is we've done some estimates that under a quarter of us have not even thought about how much money we will need when we retire. And I think that we need to do that analysis. And there's on the internet, financial planners, those centers that we saw in the report, they will help you do an analysis of how much money you're going to need when you stop working. And that's something that I think is the first step that we all need to take. All of these things that we invest in, I mean, we saw a lot of people invest in their homes for retirement. They invest in different things. We saw the housing market, though, crash. We saw the stock market crash. That hurts IRAs. That hurts 401ks. So I think the key here is to diversify and plan and have different pools of resources for our retirement. I think that's one of the most important things.
Again, Maria, I don't want to make the Latino community sound like a sea of financial illiterates. This isn't very different from what Americans are doing writ large, right?
As a country, we are terrible about saving. Only about half of the working population has access to a 401k plan at work, and only about half of the people who have one at work actually put any money into it at all. So you have and only about 4% of those people who are saving save the maximum amount. I mean, we are not a nation of savers. We never have been. And it's why people are so reliant on Social Security. Social Security was never designed to be a person's entire retirement account. Again, it had the other features of the disability and the survivors program, but it wasn't supposed to be all of your retirement. And yet, for a very large portion of the population today, it's all their money or almost all their money. And if the next generations don't do a better job of saving, they're going to be just as dependent on Social Security as the older ones are.
So the average American retiree, if you're retiring this coming year, what portion of your overall retirement money is Social Security going to be on average?
For far too many people, it could be 90%.
Wow.
2/3 of the population relies on Social Security for 90% of their retirement, which is, when you're talking about $12,000, is ridiculous. But the average benefit in retirement, the average income in retirement is only about $30,000, I believe, for the average population, and about $20,000 for Hispanics. I mean, you're not talking about a whole lot of money in retirement. And I know that part of what happens is, because I used to work in the pension area, you try to do these calculations and the numbers seem so overwhelming. When you're only making $20 or $25 or $30,000 a year, thinking about accumulating $100,000 seems like an impossibility. And yet $100,000 will probably only provide you about $10,000 a year in retirement if you annuitize it. You're not talking about a lot of income. That's why if there's one message that young people can take out of this, you have to start early. You have to start with that very first job, get into the habit of putting some money aside for retirement. I know it's the last thing on your minds. I have 2 kids of my own. They are not thinking about retirement, I can guarantee you that. But if you start early, that power of compounding is how you can get to those numbers.